Hi, my name is Jim Meroney, and I have a fantastical story that's happened for the last 3 years that directly impacted the 2016 presidential election and has been influencing both Christianity and American politics behind the scenes the last 3 years. It is literally a miracle. I will give it to you as my personal testimony. There are witnesses. I will take any lie detector anybody wants to give me. But it was done humbly without advertising or promotion. So the only people that really know about it are very, very well connected, high people in society, very important people. They watched it happen. They know it's true, but most people don't. So I felt led to write this spiel. And so that I will keep it short, I'm going to read it because it was such a personal experience to me. I could talk about it for hours. So I'm going to keep it short. About 9 years ago, I volunteered to teach 2 top biblical priorities at a Dallas megachurch, major megachurch. And on 8 occasions, I was told no, very politely. Every time I asked those staff members, they would involve themselves with myself in one of the 2 top priority ministries, and they politely declined. God within me got righteously indignant, and started leading me to use more forceful methods to bring about these needed changes that are commonly deficient in most churches. After about 3 years there, the church very significantly changed toward the 4 top biblical priorities that are also mentioned at my free website, willyouliveforever.org, which is where they got the materials from, including many changed sermons and programs. The details of the changes are going to be on our new website, americananswers.org, in a book called Christians for Trump, Is God a Democrat or a Republican? So I document all the details in several books. I've got 11 books that I'm coming out with. But the details are elsewhere. I'll keep it short. I was banned from all Sunday school classes for being too vocal with comments, insights, and questions that challenge, on occasion, things that were taught. I failed to mention to you that I have 4 decades of Bible research. I've been a professional minister as a youth minister. I've been licensed. I got a 5,000-page New Testament commentary. I have a degree from Southwestern Seminary and 36 hours from Dallas Seminary. And I have taught evangelism and New Testament at a Bible college. So it wasn't going to be a great mix for me being in a Sunday school class from the beginning, but it certainly turned into a band that was church-wide. Then I decided, the Lord led me to write about that experience, and I added it to that website I mentioned, willyouliveforever.org, under the church conflict section. And the Lord put on my mind TripAdvisor. I didn't know what that was. I went to it. I gave the details, bragging on the church's architectures, their sermons, their music. But I said, if you want to really know how things work behind the scenes, from my experience, go to my website. Quickly, I get a phone call, and 2 staff members meet with me, and they say, you're a lawyer, you're an MBA, write us a contract. You're not allowed to mention our church anymore online, or you can't come back here. I was happy to do that because by that time the church had significantly changed. I consider it the greatest church in America at this time because of its head pastor. But we butted heads for many years before he made these changes. Soon after, this was, to give you a context, this was late 2013, I think it was November 11th. That church's personnel monitored my tweets, which are at James Meroney, otherwise known as americananswers.org, like a hawk. And since the head pastor, I learned later, was very well connected, soon many nationally known ministers dropped by my Twitter account. For over a year, the Lord led me to write tweets from my website, exhorting pastors to do these top 4 priorities. And usually at 3 a.m., like Mr. Trump likes to do, I did it way before him at 3 a.m. The Lord would wake me up and have me write messages or speeches on these topics. And many of these very well-known pastors and ministries across America were watching. I had some debates with some of them because it was causing a little conflict because they were going to have to change some of the things that they prioritized, like money and other things, due to God's will and his priorities. I, at that time, took advantage of a glitch that Twitter had that's now been fixed, where if you follow nobody, you have a really good idea of who comes by. Because if you don't use the hashtag sign or the ampersand sign, which I didn't very often, I had a really good idea of who exactly was coming by. And it was confirmed in other ways, especially through sermons and things that happen in other areas of America and Christianity. A year later in July, I got an email from LinkedIn where I have a profile, and I've never used it. I've only put a profile up there that said my bio there was approaching legend status, and a stadium full of people had dropped by. And I never even used it. So I knew at that time, it was going viral on Twitter. but Twitter didn't have its dashboard, or at least I didn't know how to use it at that time. But I suspected that because I saw so many famous people coming by, and I saw some changes happening on the topics of evangelism, discipleship, prophecy, using spiritual gifts, and revival. If you hear any of those terms, you can pretty much attribute those to God through this Twitter site and our website, willyoulliveforever.org, and I'm not taking credit for it. God did a miracle through that one pastor, like a hawk, having his staff watch my Twitter account. And he, I learned later, was well connected. In late 2014, the Lord on 3 occasions had me tweet that the topic matter was going to switch from religious to political, and switch it did. They were still monitoring my account, and this is right about the time when gay marriage was going national. And I sent a direct tweet to 40 major pastor ministries, the most famous people I knew in Christianity in America, and said, you guys have got to let the Supreme Court know that not everybody's on board with this going national, that it ought to be a states' right issue. And I made a lawyerly case for that. They soon after had a 50 or 53 member conference call. James Robinson was involved. James Dobson was involved. And I gave them a hard time and basically said, you really been sitting on the fence and it's going to pass. And, this summer, you kind of too late, but you got to do something. That got the political juices going in a lot of famous ministries. Billy Graham's son, other people that eventually formed into, some of whom are members of Trump's Evangelical Council. I had no idea they were doing that, but it all started back here in early 2015. On March 23rd, 2015, around between midnight and 2 a.m., the Lord had me fast for 2 weeks. I can't fast for one meal. I am a heavy guy. I like to eat. But he gave me the grace to do that. And then he called me into specific political office. And I tweeted what he was telling me to say to myself, what he was calling me to do. And I did it live on Twitter, as I do everything. If you ever go there, I don't hide hardly anything. And somebody at that church was watching, because the next ministry event that they had there, the next worship service, the pastor himself, the head pastor, Evangelical Trump Council member, the lead spokesman to ABC when that was first announced, said, do you notice there's a very intense, strong presence in the room tonight? He asked the whole congregation. It's a mega church. They got 40,000 members. I sat silent. I knew he was talking about me because he watched God call me into ministry. But I deleted all those tweets because they were too personal. I wasn't going to let people know after the Lord told me these things. I just deleted them. But I saved them in a file. And now they're reposted in a book that's going to be free at AmericanAnswers.org. It's called Christians for Trump, Is God a Democrat or a Republican? So they're there for you to see. Soon after, many famous politicians started dropping by. And eventually news articles, national news articles, and even several GOP and Democrat presidential candidates took some of the ideas from what I tweeted on politics. The Lord led me to the concept of taking common sense approach to solving problems on every issue you can think of, lending toward the center. A guy named Charles Spurgeon said the truth is usually found in the middle, and that's pretty much the premise I went by. I took some good things from all parties, which is the belief I have. Every party has something good to contribute. We just need to get things done and be efficient with our tax money and get priority items done, just like they got done at that megachurch. And it started impacting many churches in America. I guarantee a lot of people in America that are in the ministry know about my website now, because apparently that gentleman was very well connected and God did a miracle. That's ultimately how I have to explain it. But I'm talking about I literally kept